right, Senate will please come to order. Please stand for the prayer by Senator Peshlikai and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Senator Bartow or Borelli.
Thank you. Thank you, President Fan. I'm going to do a slightly unorthodox prayer today, and I'm going to ask everybody to place your hand on your tummy, the middle of your tummy. Everybody find your belly button. Everybody find your belly button. And I wanted to explain that the Navajo Blessing Way prayer that I do often here in the Senate is a prayer that is about our center of our universe, and that is ourselves. Each of us has come through millions and millions of years to be standing here, and that goes for everybody that has a belly button. So hopefully everybody has a belly button. Our belly button is our center of the universe. And so when I say the Navajo Blessing Way prayer, with beauty before me, I talk about what it means is for beauty before me in each individual person's belly button. And so I will say the prayer now of the Navajo Beauty Way prayer, and it is for each of you within yourselves to find what that means. Nasa shama yadal kishatra tuasana shama and anet ed kadinishki Johna eshtra disha ikende yendene kun hilta holon dole ado kun yat ehonas na ne katole Wajanahasle dole Wajanahasle May I walk with beauty before me, with planning and deliberate action. We will plan the state's business and the legislature. With beauty below me, I stand on our foundation of values and truth and seek to represent the people. With beauty above me, we will have no limitations upon our abilities, and we will only seek the good. With beauty beside me, I will work for my constituents and with my peers and all people. With beauty behind me, we will only leave good things, positive things, harmony and peace as we move forward in the blessing way and the beauty way of life. All is in beauty, peace, harmony, and balance. All is in beauty, peace, harmony, and balance. All is in harmony, peace, beauty, and balance. Done. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, members, guests, and staff. Let's honor our flag with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Thank you. Well done, Senator Peshlikai. Attendance will now be recorded by electronic roll call. Thank you. Okay. Senator Alston, are you here?
Madam President, good afternoon. This is Leila Alston, and I am present. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. Nice to see you. Senator Gabaldon, are you here?
Present.
Thank you, ma'am. Good to see you as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Looks like we have 29 present, 0 absent, 1 excused. Without objection, the reading of the Journal of Wednesday, May the 19th, 2021 is dispensed with and approved as recorded by the Secretary. Introduction of guests, points of personal privilege. Senator Steele, your first step.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a proclamation to read today.
Please do.
Thank you. Members, if I could have your attention. Members? I know you're working on your budget, but this is really super important. So members, if I could have your attention, thank you. Whereas a dedicated physician, public health advocate, and Arizona legislator, Dr. Andy Nichols admirably served his constituents in Arizona's 13th legislative district in the House of Representatives from 1993 to 2001, and in the Senate in 2001. And whereas, as a practicing physician, Dr. Nichols helped establish and worked at the Free Clinic, which now stands as the El Pueblo Clinic. Committed to healthcare excellence in Tucson, he served on the original board and volunteer staff of the El Rio Neighborhood Health Center, which has grown to serve thousands of patients each year. Additionally, Dr. Nichols shared his experience and expertise as a professor of family and community medicine and as director of the Rural Health Office at the University of Arizona. And he also played a central role in creating the telemedicine health program. And whereas on a national level, Dr. Nichols served as president of the National Organization of the State Rural Health Offices and on the board of the Milbank Foundation. His extensive educational credentials and experience prepared him well for his future as an advocate for public health programs in the Arizona legislature. And whereas Dr. Nichols knew no greater joy than serving others in need, his premature death on April 19th, 2021, left a void in the lives of all of those who knew him and worked with him here. He is greatly missed by his family, including his wife, Anne, his 8 children, and his 17 grandchildren, his legislative and professional colleagues, his many friends, and the citizens of Tucson and the state of Arizona. Therefore, be it resolved that I, State Senator Victoria Steele, invite the members of the Senate in the state of Arizona to join me in recognizing that remarkable legacy of Dr. Andy Nichols on the 20th anniversary of his death, dated this 20th day of May 2021. Signed, President of the Arizona State Senate, Karen Fand, and myself, State Senator, Legislative District 9, Victoria Steele. If we could have a moment of silence, please.
Thank you. Senator Boyer, you're up next.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege proclamation.
Please do, and would you like to introduce your guest on the floor?
Thank you, Madam President. I would. I'm so grateful that Representative Daniel Hernandez has walked all the way over here to to join me and support me and stand shoulder to shoulder as we recognize Israel's right to defend itself and reaffirming Arizona's support for Israel. The Arizona State Senate proclamation says, whereas the Biden administration has stated Israel has the right to defend itself and to respond to rocket attacks, and whereas Hamas was founded with the stated goal of destroying the state of Israel and has been designated by the United States as a foreign terrorist organization, and whereas Hamas and other Palestinian terror groups have refused to recognize Israel's right to exist, to agree to accept previous agreements between Israel and the Palestinians, or to renounce violence, and whereas Hamas has launched thousands of rockets and mortars against Israeli populations, centers in recent days in an attempt to kill innocent civilians, putting hundreds of thousands of Israelis in danger of rocket attacks from Gaza, and whereas Hamas purposely uses innocent civilians as human shields by launching attacks within civilian population centers, an act that has resulted in death and injury to many Israelis and Palestinians and great loss and sorrow for the victims' families. And whereas Hamas and other Palestinian terror groups must end the rocket and mortar attacks against Israel and verifiably dismantle their terrorist infrastructure, now therefore I, Senator Paul Boyer, ask other American states to join me in expressing vigorous support and unwavering commitment to the welfare, security, and survival of the State of Israel, and in recognizing its rights to act decisively in self-defense to protect its citizens and end aggressions by Hamas and other Palestinian terror groups.
Thank you. Anybody want a moment of silence for that as well? Thank you all very much. We appreciate that, Daniel. Thank you. Business on the President's desk, communications from the Governor. Without objection, communications from the Governor is listed on the calendar will not be read, but will be entered into the Journal. Secretary will record the action. Without objection, messages from the House listed on the calendar will not be read. The messages will be entered into the Journal. Senator Gray.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the Senate accede to the request of the House of Representatives and discharge the Free Conference Committee on House Bill 2863.
Thank you, members. You've all heard that motion. I'll indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, nay? Appears the ayes have it, do have it so ordered. Secretary will record that action and notify the House. Reports of standing committees without objection. Reports of the standing committees as listed on the calendar will not be read. The reports will be entered into the Journal, and the Secretary will record the action. Committee of the Whole, Senator Gray.
Madam President, I move the Senate resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar.
Thank you. Members, you've all heard that motion. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, nay? Appears the ayes have it, do have it so ordered. I'll ask Senator Leach to please take the chair.
Yeah. I don't know. tell.
Committee Hall is called to order. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Without objection, I move all bills on the calendar be read by number and title only.
Without objection, so ordered. Please read the first bill on the calendar together with committee recommendations.
House Bill 2190, an act amending Title 41, Chapter 17, Article 1, Arizona Vice Statutes by adding Section 412202 relating to criminal justice information. The Committee on Rules recommends that the following bills are proper for consideration. HB 2190, Karen Fan, Chairman. Madam President, your Committee on Appropriations, having had under consideration HB 2190 relating to reporting criminal justice case information, recommends that the bill be amended as follows. Reference to House engrossed bill. And as so amended, your committee recommends that the bill do pass. David Gowan, Chairman.
Senator Gowan to move the bill.
I move that when the committee of the whole rise reports recommends House Bill 2190 do pass.
And we have committee amendments. My understanding that the Livingston floor amendment will not be offered. And it's also my understanding that the PACE number 1 floor amendment will not be offered. The reader will please read the PACE number 2 floor amendment. Oh, that's right. Read the appropriate committee amendment.
Madam President, your Committee on Appropriations, having had under consideration HB 2190 relating to reporting criminal justice case information, recommends that the bill be amended as follows. Reference to House engrossed bill. And as so amended, your committee recommends that the bill do pass. David Gowan, Chairman.
Senator Gowan, would you please move the Appropriations Committee amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the Appropriations Amendment to House Bill 2190 be adopted.
Thank you. And now we will not read the Livingston floor amendment, the pace number 1 floor amendment, as they will not be offered. The reader will please read pace number 2 floor amendment to the Appropriations Committee amendment.
Pace floor amendment number 2. I move the following amendment to House Bill 2190, reference to Appropriations Committee amendment, signed Tyler Pace.
Chair recognizes Senator Pace to move your floor amendment, number 2 floor amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the PACE number 2 floor amendment referencing the Appropriations Amendment to House Bill 2190 be adopted.
Senator Pace, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad you didn't say brief explanation. So, in reference to the Appropriation Amendment, this PACE number 2 floor amendment, it retains and modifies the prohibition on businesses to prohibit them from requiring a COVID-19 vaccine to obtain services. It also removes the license revocation portion of the appropriation amendment. It removes a couple lines that on prohibitions, but then re-adds them. So I'll explain what it re-adds. What the bill does when it re-adds the prohibitions is it says that a state or local government or municipality, thank you.
Please.
The state or local government municipality cannot require a COVID-19 vaccine to obtain services or benefits, and encompasses all the definitions previously described in the Appropriations Amendment. It also changes the felony to a misdemeanor, a Class 3 misdemeanor, and then it expands the exemption for healthcare to include healthcare professionals that are licensed in private practice, and it reinstates the governor's statutory authority to issue mandated vaccinations during the public health emergency.
Thank you, Senator Pace. Senator Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just rise for comment.
Please proceed.
I just want to make everybody aware that I do support the amendment. The sponsor supports the amendment, and I appreciate Mr. Pace for working through all of the issues and bringing this forward.
Members, any further additional questions? Seeing none, Mr. Pace, closing comments?
Mr. Chair, no, I have no closing comments.
No closing comments. Then, members, the question before you is the Pace floor amendment number 2 to the Appropriations Committee amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it. So ordered. Mr. Gowan, the Appropriations Committee amendment as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the Committee Whole Rise reports recommends House Bill 2190 as amended do pass.
Members, any discussion? Seeing none, the question before you is that the Appropriations Committee amendment to House Bill 2190 will be adopted. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it. So ordered. Mr. Gowan, the bill as amended, please.
Thank you. Let me reiterate, Mr. Chairman. I move that House Bill 2190 as amended do pass once more.
Members, any discussion? Seeing none, the question before you is when the Committee Whole rises a report that House Bill 2190 as amended be returned with a do pass recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it. Please read the next bill on the calendar.
House Bill 2241, an act amending Title 15, Chapter 7, Article 1, Arizona Vice Statutes by adding Section 1571.02 relating to school instruction. The Committee on Rules recommends that the following bills are proper for consideration. HB 2241, Karen Fan, Chairman. Madam President, your Committee on Education, having had under consideration HB 2241 relating to schools instruction, Holocaust, genocide, submits the following report. Your committee recommends that the bill do pass. Paul Boyer, Chairman.
We'll wait. Mr. Majority Leader, we'll wait 1 minute. Mr. Gray, would you please move House Bill 2241?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move when the Committee of the Whole rises a report, it recommends that House Bill 2241 do pass.
As Senator Boyer, we have moved your bill. I'm going to call for discussion. Are you on the board? Now press your button. Thank you. Mr. Boyer.
Mr. Chair, are you asking me to move the bill?
I did. The bill, Mr. Boyer, has been moved. Just open it up for comments for you at this time. Bring it up to speed on where we are on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any comments.
No comments? Members, are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, the question before you then is, would the Committee of the Whole rises a report that House Bill 2241 be returned with a due pass recommendation? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it, so ordered. Please read the last bill on the calendar together with committee recommendations.
House Bill 2809, an act amending sections 362854, 362858, 362859, and 362860 Arizona Vice statutes relating to adult use of marijuana. The Committee on Rules recommends that the following bills are proper for consideration. HB 2809, Karen Fan, Chairman. Madam President, your Committee on Health and Human Services, having had under consideration HB 2809 relating to marijuana advertising, labeling, signage, sales, submits the following report. Your committee recommends that the bill do pass. Nancy Bardo, Chairman.
Senator Barter to please move HB 2809.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it give House Bill 2809 a due pass recommendation.
And we have a Pace floor amendment. Please read.
Pace floor amendment. I move the following amendment to House Bill 2809, reference to House engrossed bills, signed Tyler Pace.
Senator Pace to move your floor amendment. Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Pace floor amendment to House Bill 2809 be adopted.
Explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This does a couple clarifications. The first is prohibits the advertisement of marijuana and marijuana products to individuals under the age of 21 and prohibits the display of image of marijuana leaves, marijuana buds, or marijuana use in these areas. Prohibits the placement of billboards that advertise marijuana within 1,000 feet line of sight of child care centers, churches, public parks, playgrounds, and schools, and provides a 30-day compliance period for these advertisements, and specifies that marijuana establishments and dispensaries are not precluded from making charitable contributions without brand acknowledgement or hosting industry events. This is an amendment to work with some of the advertisers and the sponsor to get this done, and happy to stand for any questions.
Members, any discussion on House Bill 2809? Seeing none, then the question before you is when the Committee of the Whole rises a report that House Bill 2809 be returned with a due pass recommendation. We got to do the Pace amendment. I was getting ahead of myself. Let's do the question before you is when the Committee of the Whole rises a report that the Pace floor amendment to HB 2809 be adopted. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it. Senator Barter to move the bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it give House Bill 2809 as amended a due pass recommendation.
Chair recognizes Senator Marsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of House Bill 2809. May I?
Comments, please proceed.
Comments, yes. As a teacher who is with kids now only 2 hours a day, but traditionally all day, I am all in favor of anything that protects them further, which I think this bill does. And I am also looking at RTS and looking at all of the healthcare organizations who have weighed in favor of this bill, and as someone who is very interested in protecting public health, I am noticing that and am in full support of this bill, and thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Barter, any closing comments? Saying none. Senator Rotundo. We're getting you hooked up. 1 second. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise against this bill, and I'd like to give an explanation.
Please proceed.
There are many parts of this bill that I think are very valuable, the labeling and everything else. My point is that DHS can do this through rules, and that's where I think this should be done. On behalf of the dispensaries, I think it's rather, hypocritical that we still allow the alcohol industry and the tobacco industry to sponsor music events, for example, but yet we're going to not allow another industry. I think that is unfair in the marketplace. Now, of course, I wouldn't want tobacco, alcohol, or dispensaries sponsoring children's games. And I always have supported no marketing for any drug, whether it's tobacco or alcohol, and marijuana as well, anywhere near a school. But I think when we look at business, we have to be fair to each industry so it's a level playing field. DHS needs to continue the work in rulemaking they're done. Many things in this bill that are extremely important need to be done, and that can happen within the DHS rulemaking process. Thank you.
Senator Bardo, any closing comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do rise in support of House Bill 2809 as amended, and would like to just answer the criticism
Please
of
proceed.
not making the perfect the enemy of the good. We are making huge progress with this bill and making sure that our voice is heard. Sometimes when we leave it to agency rules that we just are not sure what the outcome is going to be, this makes huge improvements to the future of the issues at hand in this bill in terms of labeling and signage and advertising. And I'm grateful that we've come to an agreement to make sure that these are in law and in statute and will be for the future that we can depend on. I would encourage all members to support the work that we've done and the hard work of the sponsor in support of protecting children, and I would encourage all members to do so. Thank you.
Members, any discussion? Seeing none, the question before you is when the committee whole rises a report that House Bill 2809 be returned with a due pass recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it, so ordered. Mr. Majority Leader.
Mr. Chairman, I move the committee of the whole rise and report.
Members, you've heard that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it, so ordered.
Reader will please read the report.
Madam President, your Committee of the Whole, having had under consideration the legislation listed below, made the following recommendation. HB 2190 do pass as amended. HB 2241 do pass. HB 2809 do pass as amended. Respectfully, Vince Leach, Chairman, Committee of the Whole.
Senator Leach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the report of the committee whole be adopted, bills be properly assigned.
You've heard the motion. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it so ordered. All right, third reading of bills.
House Bill 2190, an act amending Title 36, Arizona Vice Statutes by adding Chapter 16 relating to public health.
Members, you've all heard the third reading of House Bill 2190. Those in favor of the measure vote aye. Those opposed to vote no. The system is now open, and the Senate will now proceed to vote. Senator Alston, how do you vote on 2190?
Madam President, this is Leila Alston, and I vote no on House Bill 2190.
Thank you. Senator Gabaldon, how do you vote?
Senator Gabaldon, I vote no on HB 2190.
Thank you. Senator Alston and Gabaldon are both noes on 2190.
No.
Members, have you all voted? Senator Shope, you're on the board.
Thank you, Madam President. Rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in opposition of House Bill 2190 in its current form. This bill has taken some turns. We've had discussions. We had a very spirited discussion, I'd say, among many members over the last several days, and I wish that more folks would have those discussions in person rather than social media and on the radio. But nevertheless, here we are with what we have in front of us because we couldn't come to an agreement. I was in favor of this bill and would have been a green name on that bill had the PACE #1 floor amendment been put on. It is undoubtedly true that we would have been in better shape as a citizenry had the PACE #1 amendment been put on and this bill been allowed to pass, go to the House and pass, and Governor Ducey be able to sign it. Now, we are in a situation where the bill won't even get out of this chamber, and I think that is a sad day. Now, let's go ahead and talk about, briefly, because I let my friend from Legislative District 11 know that I'd be brief, why I supported the #1 and can't support this bill, and I've been consistent on this from day one without that amendment, and that is, I believe in private property rights. I believe in the rights of the sole proprietor, the barber who may be immunocompromised, who cannot get a vaccine and would just want to put a sign up in the front of their shop. This bill, in its current form, would have the heavy hand of government shut that business down and leave that individual without a livelihood, and that is something that I cannot stand for. And as somebody who's actually signed the front of a paycheck before that is in this body, I don't believe that anybody else that's a business owner out there should be faced with that decision. Friends, we have to go ahead, and I'll end with this, and realize that when we can get something passed in an incremental way that makes things better than they are today under current law, we should take that opportunity every single time, especially when we know that the path is set for the signature and for it to go on and become law. Friends, I would also say that when it's time to go ahead and get to negotiating, I would encourage all of you, you've known me for 9 years, whether it's been here in this body or in the House, that we do so across a table and not on social media or other forms of media. With that, I vote no.
Thank you, sir. Senator Gowan, you're on the board.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
Thank you, Madam President. As you'll see the numbers up there, the vast majority of the party I am in actually believe in pushing this forward and making this a law, and there's a reason. I think we all believe in private property rights, but we also believe in the private individual rights. And I remember a time when our party had that as the #1 priority. And I still hold that near and dear to my heart when we talk about priorities. And the private individual right is the #1 priority here. You know, it talked about the bill won't get out of the chamber. Well, it is only as such when you look at the board where the numbers are that we have a vast majority of this party in favor. So I would say, and I would compel anybody up there that is a red or a no, that they would switch that vote so that we can move this forward, protect our citizenry. Anytime that you have to go into a business and the business can say, let me see your passport, show me what you've done, show me you've injected something in your arm. That is not proper. That is not private individual rights. That is the basic foundation of our society and why we created this great country. Businesses all the time are regulated, as I've stated before. We have planning and zoning, we have health, and we have safety issues. We have many more that we do deal with businesses. What we're saying here is, do not force me to show you my papers so that I can get food, I can get clothes, and I can be comforted. That's what we're saying here. We talk about a free market, that is a free market. And that is why you see my name in the green and saying yes to this, Madam President. I would hope that we can reconsider and think about getting this over to the House and let them look at the issues that we're presenting here and make sure. I have to tell you, there is a big issue about getting the vaccinations. You know, I had COVID myself, as many of you know that. That is a natural vaccination. My son, it goes to the University of Arizona, and he is being asked to come off of the online school that he's done for a year. By the way, so you know, he got straight A's there. To come to school, he has to be vaccinated, is the dictation from that university. That is absolutely wrong. Wrong thinking, and that's the wrong way to go when we talk about individual private rights. And I'm appalled at it. It's his choice as a 25-year-old whether he wishes to get that or not. It is your right whether you get that or not. And if you're vaccinated and that's the belief you have, by being vaccinated you cannot get it anymore, then why would you care if I do? What does that matter to you? You're vaccinated. So go, that's your choice, that's great. We all have those choices. Allow me my choice in this great country we live in. I am wholeheartedly behind this and believe in this, and that you have two factions where we talk about, yes, government should never tell you that, but why should a private business? And I just told you the reason why. Individual rights. And with that, Madam President, I vote aye.
Thank you, sir. Senator Leach, you're next up.
Thank you, Madam President. Rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
Thank you, Madam President. 2190 has had somewhat of an arduous path to making it on the board today. And to that end, I want to say thanks to my seatmate, Representative Brett Roberts, for the work that he's done here. He may not get the results he's looking for today, but let me assure the members in this body, it's not because he set a marker and said, this is where I'm going to be, and I won't move off that. He has had any number of meetings with several, including right up until probably 9:30 this morning, trying to come to some ground, that middle ground, that it would work for everybody. In fact, I can tell you from personal experience, he's worked with this member when this bill was first introduced, and taking me through the twists and turns of what he was trying to do, what he was trying to accomplish. But let me assure you of one thing. He said, while I'm willing to move on issues, I have a floor. I have a base. And I can move left, right, up, down, but I have a base of information that I want in this bill. That's his right, that's his responsibility, not only to himself, but to the constituents of LD 11, which I share with him. And he set that floor, and I don't think that's been a secret to anybody, of what his wishes, wants, and demands were in putting this bill together. Unfortunately, we weren't able to come there. What's the old saying? Bills are never dead until we sign and die. So there may be life, there may not be. He did not break his principles, and he did not break his promise to his constituents, to our constituents. I can tell you that, I don't know about your mailbox, but LD 11 people that didn't know where my email was certainly know now. And they use it freely, and I welcome that, because it is clear to me that the folks in LD 11 want this bill. Representing them, you will see that I'm green on this board, and I will be green as we go forward. I want to talk a little bit about something that was just mentioned by the previous speaker, and that's show me your papers. I had family that served in WW2, World War II, and we all know what show me your papers meant then. In 1970, I was privileged to be able to take a trip to the Soviet Union, when the Soviet Union was still behind Iron Curtain. And we had passports and we had visas. And the first night in country, in a Russian city, we got off the bus and we checked into the hotel, and they took our papers. They take your papers, and your papers are kept behind the desk. You have no papers when you go out on the street. If you were to go out on the street without going back to the front desk and requesting your papers so that you could go onto the street. Did I live there forever? Did I have to live under that? No. But when you see that, when you get off the bus coming from a free country, you check in, you sign your name, and they say, give me your papers, you all of a sudden wake up to what that really means and what that really says. And that is the heart of individual freedom and the basis of our democracy and our republic. I support this bill, and I would ask each one of you on the floor that are red to reconsider your position and give your constituents what they are asking for. And with that, Madam President, I vote aye.
Thank you, sir. Senator Townsend, you're up next.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
Thank you. And I think it's really important that we understand that there's a difference between business rights and personal rights. I've heard so much about how businesses can say, well, no shoes, no shirt, no service. We talked earlier in caucus about this. Shoes having to do with liability. You don't want the patron to cut their feet on something on the floor. You have to have shoes. A shirt protects you from indecent exposure. Those are all things that do not have to do with a medical situation. Whether or not you should have to disclose your medical information to a business in order to patronize that business, I can't think of anything at the moment that would compare, that we would allow. I have a business and I want to know if you have AIDS or not, because I'm a barber. I have a business and I want to know if you can walk in here or not, because I don't like to have to accommodate for wheelchairs, because then I can't put as much stuff in there and I have to make things wider. I don't like that. And so as a business owner, I have a right to have narrow aisles so I can fit more product and make more money. I don't want you in my business if you might have a seizure, because you could fall and hit your head. So I need to know if you've been prescribed medication. Are you on medication? And have you been seizure-free for a year? Because if not, I could be liable and sued if you hit your head on something. So I want to know, what's your status regarding your seizures? When else do we ask people to give their medical information in order to patronize a business? That business owner who has an immunocompromised situation. I have a daughter who has epilepsy. She wants to be a police officer. She cannot be, because she can't drive the police car. She wants to be a nurse, but she can't do that either. And I could make a long list. Sometimes people who want to do a particular job, but because of their own personal situation, they cannot. So that doesn't persuade me. I feel sorry, but to require a person to give up their personal, private, medical information in order to patronize a business is discrimination. We talked about the power of the free market. It seems like we're going to have to rely on that at this point, because this bill's not going to pass. So I want to communicate to those of you who are listening, there is power in the purse. I believe it was Qatar Airlines who announced that they were going to require vaccines in order for you to fly on their airline. They were the first one to do that, I believe. They immediately got backlash, and they very quickly changed that policy. So, people of Arizona, create the backlash. I was on social media saying I was going to be voting no on this bill so that I could reconsider it and bring it back on Monday, but I'm not willing to put my name up on this bill in red after thinking that through. So I apologize for not doing that, but I have to be listed as green on this bill. And finally, this is only half of the issue. Most of the people reaching out to me are saying, I'm going to get fired if I don't get a vaccine. Is my employer going to be able to terminate me if I don't get a vaccine? Those are the emails that I'm getting. So I would have preferred that this bill would have addressed the employer-employee relationship, but the sponsor committed to only dealing with the consumer side of things. So I just want to also mention that we should not give up on the issue of employer-employee relationships. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 says, once an employer receives notice that an employee's sincerely held religious belief, practice, or observance prevents them from taking the influenza vaccine, the employer must provide a reasonable accommodation unless it would pose an undue hardship as defined by Title VII. I propose, members and members of the public, that we just codify that language. We find a way to put that into statute that changes it from the influenza vaccine to the COVID-19 vaccine so that your employer is required, you don't have to go through litigation to force this, that your employer is required to provide for an exemption if you have one of these things listed here. So as we move forward with this bill failing, we should still continue to try to find solution. We should not go home without some kind of resolution. I know we can get this exemption done for the employer-employee relationship, and I would ask that we push forward at least with that. And with that, I vote aye.
Thank you, ma'am. Members, have you all voted? Senator Pace, how do you vote? Senator Pace.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
Thank you. I was just trying to confirm with Sunny who was going next, or the senator from District 5. Members, this has been a very long evening for me last night and this morning, working on 2 different amendments for House Bill 2190. In fact, I just got a text message from someone who said, "Why are you opposed to the PACE bill or the PACE amendment?" And I'm like, I wrote it. But I want to talk about, because it was brought up, the amendment that was not offered and why that affects my vote today. The PACE number 1 floor amendment, which was referenced by another senator today, there is only one difference. I have the comparison here between the PACE number 2 amendment and the PACE number 1 amendment. The difference is the PACE floor amendment number 1 removes the prohibition on businesses and accompanying penalties. So it takes what we have today in this version right now, and it would remove the prohibition on businesses and accompanying penalties. It would leave everything else and in the included exemptions. And so therefore, the one we have before us has those penalties as well as the prohibitions. I wanted to take a moment and thank Senator Livingston, or Senator for District 22, who spent a significant amount of time on the base of this amendment. The PACE floor amendment number 2, which was adopted, was based off of his hard work on getting an amendment, and then we made some tweaks to it, and unfortunately, we couldn't adopt his and then do an amendment to adopt the changes from his, and so I did want to acknowledge that, as well as the senator, let's see if I did this right, Senator from District 8, who he and I visited significantly about the PACE number 1 and number 2 floor amendments and what we would do to resolve some of his concerns. And then, of course, the sponsor of this bill, who I spent much time with, and I appreciate that he came to an agreement with me on the PACE number 2 amendment. And one of the things that the number 2 amendment that was adopted on this bill does that I think is very, very important is it does, it clarifies some of the things that the governor's executive order doesn't. One of which is whether the universities fall under this piece, what exemptions are there for healthcare organizations, and how far does that expand to in privately owned practices, et cetera. And then it puts some sort of penalty system in there to keep people on track. However, I will say that I was supportive of both the PACE number 1 and number 2 amendments, but I will be voting for this bill as amended today, House Bill 2190, and I do vote aye.
Senator Borelli?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
Thank you, Madam President. As you can see, members up on the board is agreeing. I'm yes. But I'm looking at the no votes on here, and it's very troubling. It's a very troubling signal. We have a Constitution, the Fourth Amendment. You have rights to persons. The right of the people to secure in their persons. Houses, papers, and effects. Well, persons. It means your body. The government should have no right to interfere with someone's forcing somebody to get a vaccine. We've heard, show me your papers. I've got teachers in my district, K-12 and university and community college, and students that do not want to get the vaccine that, by the way, has, I've been told, killed lab animals, hasn't been truly fully safe, still in the experimental stages. We're all being used as guinea pigs, unfortunately. Now, I didn't have a choice when I was in the Marines because we had to get anthrax shots, vaccines, because we were possibly going into an area, an AO, where anthrax was going to be used on the troops. That wasn't approved by the FDA. But I made that choice. I was in the service. And I took that oath that I knew that I someday might cost me my life. But to force somebody to take a vaccine that has a 99.567 on a survival rate, and the average age of death is 76 years old, and to force that onto the healthy is appalling. You've heard, show me your papers. What's next? Star of David? Scarlet Letter? This crosses party lines, folks. I have Democrats in my district, believe it or not, that do not want to be mandated that they have to have a vaccine passport to be employed, to be educated, to shop, and then to enlist business, the private industry, to do the bidding of the government of leverage and power is fascistic. Where do we draw that line? It's good to see some of you here that aren't wearing masks. It's good to see your faces again. But where do we draw that line? We're here to protect the people and protect their rights as a free society to make your own choices, to move freely about the country. We have 50 individual states, lower 48, and you don't need to have papers to move from one state to another. In the Soviet bloc country, you heard from Senator Leach, you can't move around without those papers. I urge you to please, someone flip here. And for the only reason why I would be, Madam President, I'm going to flip to a red, is so that way for reconsideration. I stand with this bill, not the amendments that were proposed. Nothing is perfect. It's written on paper. We can change things. And I hate to throw away good for perfect. But we need to have something so a free people can move around, go do their shopping. As Christians, we've read the book of Revelations. The mark of the beast. You don't have the mark of the beast, you can't work, you can't go get anything. I will not cave to the mark of the beast. If I can't travel because I have to have a vaccine passport that's going to supersede my U.S. passport, I guess I'm staying here. I love Arizona anyway. And you all should come out to Lake Havasu City, which seems to be the last bastion of freedom in the state. With that, Madam President, for the sole purposes of bringing this back for reconsideration, I'm changing my vote to nay.
Thank you. Senator Peshlikai?
Thank you, Madam President. I wish to explain my vote.
Please do.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, all the arguments for the folks that are speaking, voting for this bill, this is exactly the same arguments that I had regarding requiring our voters to send in their documents when they wanted to vote. And so it's really, I think, hypocritical of folks to say this on this bill when that was forced through here against the will of many of our constituents. And then also, the reality is the government has been doing this for hundreds of years, and my people were put on forced marches and vaccinated and everything. And so everything has been unjust. It just depends on which side of the aisle that you're sitting on, depending on the issue on the board. And so it's just, to me, really aggravating that folks can do this in the same legislative body that we just voted for, making people show their papers just to vote. So I just want to say that and explain my vote, and I vote no.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, the system is now closed. Secretary will now record the action by a vote of 13 ayes, 16 nays, 1 not voting. You have failed to pass House Bill 2190. All right, seeing no further business, committee announcements for Monday, May the 24th. Senator Gray.
Thank you, Madam President. With your permission, your Rules Committee will be meeting at 1 p.m. in Senate Hearing Room 109.
Thank you. Senator Gray.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the Senate stand adjourned until Monday, May 24th, 2021 at 1:30 a.m. or
Thank
p.m.
You. Got it.
Check
PM.
that.
PM. Thank you. Members, you've all heard that motion. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it. Do have it so ordered. Everybody, please have a very safe weekend, enjoyable, get relaxed, and back to work on Monday. We're adjourned.